The Desert Fathers were early Christian hermits who lived in an Egyptian desert beginning around the 3rd century AD. Theologian Barbara Brown Taylor writes, "The wisdom of the Desert Fathers includes the wisdom that the hardest spiritual work in the world is to love the neighbor as the self, to encounter another human being not as someone you can use, change, fix, help, save, enroll, convince, or control, but simply as someone who can spring you from the prison of yourself, if you will allow it. All you have to do is recognize another you out there, your other self in the world, for whom you may care as instinctively as you care for yourself. To become that person, even for a moment, is to understand what it means to die to yourself. This can be as frightening as it is liberating. It may be," she writes, "the only real spiritual discipline there is." The year is 2010, maybe 2011, and my second born, around 4 or 5 years old, is throwing a tantrum. We are up in his room and he is angry. This fit has been playing out for some time, and I'm absolutely certain he needs to have some space from me in order for it to pass. But he doesn't seem to recognize or agree with me about this. And so I tell him to stay in his room, that I'm going downstairs, and he is not to follow. He respects me enough that he follows slowly, but he still follows. First, just standing outside his door as I walk downstairs, then moving after me one step at a time, sliding his socked foot to the edge, slipping down to the next stair landing, never breaking eye contact with me, who, standing at the bottom of the stairs now, is trying to find the exact words to compel him to just stop and take a few minutes to calm down. Step after step until he is 4 steps from the bottom, and I say that all too common and utterly opaque parent phrase, "So help me." Do not step on this bottom step. And he is mad. And he looks at me, trying, I think, to gauge if I actually have a consequence in mind, or if he cares. And then I see a flash of light in his eyes and the slightest glimpse of a smirk. And he steps down to the second to last step and then stretches his leg long, past the bottom step, and presents himself before me, the victor, who has found a loophole to my mandate. Now I have to make a decision. And probably before I can even process my options, my face has already revealed to this young person that his chess move has broken through my parental resolve. In his unwillingness to respect my boundary, he somehow switched places with me. It is now suddenly in my hands whether to accept his offer, an offer to spring from my own prison, to recognize another me out there in him, another way to end the tantrum, one where he could keep control, save face, but which required me to put aside my own control. I want to say that I did so with abandon, that I erupted in laughter at the incredible magnificence of this small human in whom I could see all of the same needs I have myself. I wasn't quite that skillful, but I did allow myself to smile at his cleverness. And that was enough for him. The conflict faded. His solution gave him needed control, and I grew as a parent and as a human being in my awareness of the power of giving in, of giving over. This past October, a dear friend of mine lost his mom to cancer. His family, like so many others, had to navigate that deep loss in the midst of the COVID pandemic. so they gathered for a memorial on Zoom. I didn't know his mother well, only met her once or twice, but I had heard stories about her for years. Doris Prouty was a remarkable woman who touched many, many lives. I went to the memorial because of my friendship with her son, as a witness to the person who made him, to hold him in love and to express my thanks to her spirit. His eulogy for his mom was beautiful. In it, he shared a story that I have thought about over and over again. I can't do it justice, but I will do my best. He described a moment with her in his early adolescence when he had done something wrong. His mom was not one to punish severely, but she was flustered enough about whatever he had done that she told him for the first time ever that she was going to wash his mouth out with soap. He pauses in telling the story at this point to point out that by adolescence, a son really has to agree to a punishment like that. It was not something his mom could likely enforce without his sheepish participation. He described how he acquiesced, following her to the bathroom and biting into the bar of soap. The way he recalled this moment evoked such a familiar feeling, the two of them almost playful in moving through the steps like a dance. The son giving in to his parent, allowing her to guide him toward a better version of himself. I imagine the taste of the soap is a part of why he still remembers that moment. But I think also it has stayed with him because of how powerful it is to give oneself over to another. We learn how to release ourselves to someone else through the relationships in our lives. From friends and lovers, family and creaturely companions, as was said in this morning's litany for becoming. There is no me without you. We shape one another. The sacred that birthed us weaves our lives together so that we can only find ourselves through shared becoming. For my journey and all its winding ways, for yours. This is loving and being loved. And I know both my stories center the relationship between parent and child, mother and son, but I assure you there are infinite opportunities in our lives to love the neighbor as thyself. And each time we allow ourselves into that spiritual practice, each time we recognize another me out there, each time we become that person, even for a moment, we progress in our own becoming. What is church but a space that intentionally invites us into the work of becoming together? A space where we choose to come because we recognize that we need another to do this work. And if that is the essence of this space, then every one of us is someone who can spring me from the prison of myself if I will allow it. When I use that lens to think about our faith, I feel ready for the work we still have to do in building the space for our mutual becoming. I feel less mournful about what is not yet built and more motivated for what is still to come. There is patience, forgiveness, grace in the idea of becoming together with others. There is no expectation that the work is done, but an ongoing reminder that there is work before us. And if we are not ready to bite into a bar of soap or to throw our heads back and laugh with abandon, that does not mean we have failed. There will be another opportunity in the journey ahead if we allow it. Next week, there is scaffolding going up around our beloved sanctuary. They will be pulling down a slate roof that has sheltered this sacred space for nearly 2 centuries. This community has come together to raise a roof that will carry us into the next century and beyond. I wonder what we will become, how we will live into our values under the solid protection of this place we continue to build together. What a blessing it is to be in each other's company on this journey of becoming.